In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to use the Flair Globals node to control the engine and each individual effect within a shader style. I'm Henriette from Artineering, and we develop artist-driven tools for stylized rendering. Let's global things up! In the previous tutorial, we learned everything there is to know about style presets, including how to load and save them. Style presets are collections of previously set global values, and now we're going to learn everything there is to know about these global values in Flair for Maya. The Flair Globals node is like any other node within Maya, and it can be found in the outliner when displaying non-DAG nodes. However, it can also be conveniently selected by clicking on the globe icon in the Flair shelf. This will automatically display the relevant Flair Global node attributes and their values. The Flair Globals node is mostly divided into three sections: engine, style, and depending on the style, canvas. We will focus mostly on the engine section, which contains all engine-related attributes. The most important is world scale, which defines how big the virtual world is. This directly translates to how many Maya units is 1 meter in the virtual world. A lot of productions tend to use a world scale of 100 for simulation reasons. This means that 100 Maya units is approximately the size of a meter. However, we recommend rescaling the scene and working at a smaller scale, as it can become cumbersome working at bigger scales on the viewport. The next attribute is style, which changes the post-processing pipeline and therefore the style that Flair is currently rendering in. Unlike presets, changing this won't affect all the other attributes. The separate stylization attribute gives options as to how the style is saved with the Maya scene. You can choose to not separate the stylization, only saving the style with the Maya scene. You can choose to save the style separately alongside the Maya scene. This is the default behavior, as no matter what happens with the Maya scene file, the style is still stored separately and can be imported when needed. Or you can choose to save the style and replace it. This is recommended when working with references or when the stylization becomes too big. Maya is not optimized to store the vertex data that Flair needs, making scene files inflate like Aunt Merge. Therefore, you can save the style along the Maya scene and delete all Flair data from the scene during saving, as to keep the Maya scene file size nimble. After saving, the style will be placed back on the entire scene. If you like these explanations, give us a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to our channel with the bell icon to be notified about future tutorials like this. Back to them globals. Within the engine settings, you will also find the quality options with the relevant quality attributes. TAA will enable Temporal Anti-Aliasing, which apart from reducing pixel jaggies, also brings geometric effects like wobble and geoblur to life. TAA might cause ghosting when interactively moving things around in the scene, so make sure to only enable TAA when needed. Samples defines the amount of samples that are rendered by TAA. 64 is more than enough for most cases and should only require a second or two to average. You can also go lower with acceptable results too, in case you need to render something quicker. Render scale defines the percentage at which Flair renders images. 100% is the normal resolution. However, certain styles with thin lines like toon or sketch lines benefit from rendering at 150% or even 200%. This will super sample rendering at bigger resolutions. Just keep in mind that this impacts performance and requires more video RAM. If you're sporting a 4K screen and only a moderate GPU, you can also set the render scale to 50% for better performance in the viewport. Color depth allows to set the bit depth of some render targets within Flair, thereby reducing the total memory footprint. The last engine section toggles all optional features within Flair. We will explain these in dedicated tutorials, but you can also read about them in the documentation linked in the description below. Style attributes contain all style-related attributes to globally control all effects. These attributes will change depending on what style and optional features you're currently using within Flair. Therefore, we will go in-depth on these attributes in dedicated tutorials instead. However, feel free to change each attribute and see how these affect the entire stylization. It's incredible to see how different combinations can give completely different looks. If you need more information about a specific attribute, you can hover over each widget to get a tooltip, or you can find them thoroughly documented with small videos in our documentation. It is important to remember that these are normal attributes, so you can add expressions, keyframes, connect nodes, or do whatever you want with them. However, only the current value will be saved within style presets. The final section within the flag globals contains the canvas-related attributes. We will cover these in a separate Canvas series of tutorials, but they're also thoroughly documented on our website. Don't hesitate to change attributes within the Flag Globals node to push your art direction in different ways, as you can always save the current globals in style presets and load up previously saved values. Finally, in case you find yourself constantly changing globals, you can also pin the attribute editor so that flag globals can be seen even when your selection changes. Or copy the attribute editor tab to have them in a separate window and free up the attribute editor to show other node attributes. Now you know how to globally control attributes using the Flag Globals node. We mostly covered the engine settings, but you should have a good idea on how to change global attributes and hopefully learned a few tips and tricks about working with the attribute editor. Everything we have covered can also be found in written form in the documentation linked in the description below. With the highest level of control covered, it is time for us to enter the Flair materials realm and learn how to quickly and effectively work with Flair material presets to continue our art direction journey. If you love what we're doing, make sure to purchase a commercial license or become our Patreon to use Flair without resolution limitations and have your name appear in this beautiful list of credits. Thanks for watching, and let's preset materials up in the next one.